Welcome to the Unchill Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Jess is the founder of the Aligned Path and strategic communication expert with 20 years experience across corporate, nonprofit, and public sectors. The Aligned Path is a movement and wellness brand rooted in helping women connect with their inner wisdom, their community, and their power. Through transformational retreats, grounding experiences, and soulful storytelling, Jess creates a space where people feel seen, supported, inspired to leave attention so they can rise into the next chapter with clarity and purpose. Welcome!
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
This was so amazing. It's so funny because we met at a women's networking event a couple months ago and really connected. And then we got coffee and I was like, well, you're so amazing. And
I felt the same. You, so I'm so happy to be here and it's so great to chat.
Thank you. Like sometimes I feel this like sense of like I can be myself with certain people and you bring that out of me so well because you have this warm heart and it just radiates, it just shines through you.
I feel the same way about you. I know it's like when you meet your people and when you meet authentic people, you can really feel that connection. It's like electric.
I know.
So I feel that way.
Thank you so much. So we're going to dive deep into your Aligned Path. I know you have a retreat coming up, and we're going to talk all about that. But we really want to know what the ambition is and how you got started. So what were the first steps that you took this idea for Aligned Path to turn it from an idea to a movement?
Yeah. So, my story started in struggle. I feel like a lot of women sometimes have stories that start that way, and that is absolutely how mine was. So I was suffering from massive burnout and I was pulled in all of these different directions and really didn't know which way was up. And so through an experience with a shaman, my whole life changed for the better. I was literally weighed down with all of the energy that had been on top of me of everything that was happening or had happened to me or my loved ones. And in having this energy clearing session, I learned about mindfulness, meditation, crystal energy healing, grounding experiences, and it just set me off on this whole path. And so I really spent a lot of time focused on myself and getting to know myself because I didn't have a relationship with myself, which a lot of women struggle with and don't talk about. And so on that journey, I really just wanted to have a life in flow and balance. And I had the opportunity to start something new for myself. And I really just wanted to focus on giving the gift of what I had spent the last year plus learning and living and sharing it with other women who were kind of floating through life and going through the motions and not really enjoying themselves.
Yeah. What got you to want to see a shaman to begin with? That's a big step.
It was a big step. Yeah. I was in a really dark place and I didn't feel like, the medical route by waiting a really long time to schedule time with my doctor and then trying some different medicines. I didn't really think I had that much time. I know I didn't have that much time. So I had sent my sister-in-law there a couple of years before and she had a beautiful experience and my husband had actually been as well. And so it was my turn to check it out. And I'm so grateful that I did because I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't taken that step and sent myself there. And I'm so grateful for where I am.
Yeah. What kind of steps for someone who's interested in doing it kind of like relieve their anxieties about it? Because when I hear, I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes when I hear life-changing, I get like, life-changing? Oh my God. So what tips or like advice would you give someone who's leading towards doing it but kind of doesn't know?
Well, I think with anything in life, you have to just be open-minded, right? And in the best place that you can mentally be. And so much comes down to your mindset in life, right? And you and I have talked about that. So just to have an open mind and an open heart, and you'll get the most out of any of life's experiences. But I should say that my response was not typical. That was mine. And I know many other people that, have different experiences when they go to healers or doctors. And so that's just my shared experience.
I love that. What does it mean for you to be aligned?
So for me, to be aligned is to be energized about what I'm doing and to not feel like my life is forced. Or obviously we still have chores, like the laundry is not going to do itself, but it's really about, having that mindset where it's like, I get to do this laundry. I get to be home right now and take care of my responsibilities and then do other things. So not anything I dread. It's really just trying to live a life that is authentically mine and feels right. So that to me is about, being aligned with my soul. And not many people talk about their souls, and it's a little woo or woo woo, depending on how you phrase it. But I am very connected to myself in a deep way, and I'm grateful for it. And so it's really just, following my intuition and my instincts and my gut nudge to make sure that what I'm doing is right. That's how I know if I'm in flow and alignment.
I love that. Were you always in flow?
No.
So how do we get to that point? Because right now I feel like my intuition is kicking in.
Yeah.
And I can feel it so hard. And sometimes I feel like my anxiety is like that intuition, which I thought was like, like I'm just so stressed out. But it's like anxiety is like telling me not to do it. What I thought was like kind of like, for example, like if I wasn't reaching out for someone wasn't reaching out, I'd be like, oh my God, I need to talk to them. I need to. But I feel like my intuition was like, I don't think they're right for you.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't understand that intuition. How did you learn about your own intuition or your gut feeling?
So that for me really came when I started putting out the noise all around me and enforcing boundaries and forcing myself to get comfortable with myself. I was the person that would socialize questions and get opinions from everyone else before I made a decision. So I really, after seeing the shaman, I really got to know myself better. And so for me, that is spending time in meditation, just quieting down the noise, not always having, something on in the background. It's really important to just focus. And when you quiet down everything that's around you, suddenly your body starts responding to things and really paying attention to those synchronicities that are happening around you, paying attention to those little thoughts that you're having. And, also for me, I did a lot of chasing. And now I live by the phrase of I don't chase, I attract. And I sometimes have to remind myself of that because it's easy for us to make progress and then be in certain situations where you fall on bad habits or old ways. And that happened to me recently where I was in a circumstance and it was unknown and it was uncomfortable for me. And so I started falling back on these old patterns that I had. And in doing so, I paused and I was like, you're chasing. Stop chasing. And when you surrender to your life and you surrender to your circumstances, it's very freeing. And then there's beautiful things that follow and flow with that if you allow it.
I love that. So say that I feel like I am in my bad habits and I know I am. How can we kind of go back into our alignment? Like, what do you do in circumstances like that?
So if I find myself getting desperate suddenly and, really just trying to micromanage the universe, as that used to be my favorite pastime. And I'm so grateful it's anymore. Really just slowing myself down. I know that I feel really good when I'm outside in nature and when I take the time to be, connected to the earth. So I'll go for a walk outside and just try to collect my thoughts and slow my brain down because our brains work so fast and we don't realize that sometimes we're just spinning a narrative very quickly and it can be very distracting and send you on a path you don't want to be on.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like when I am chasing, I feel like maybe they're not the right person for me. I feel like the right people for me, I don't have to chase. I feel at peace. Like if they're not responding to me or whatever, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I trust them to respond and I feel safe around certain people. And I feel like once that the nudge happens, we're like, they don't like me. I'm like, do I even like them? Right?
And it's important to have those conversations with yourself. And if you're on autopilot and just going through the motions, you're not having that inner dialogue. And so you're repeating those relationship patterns and you're not really living your life or enjoying your life to the degree that you could be if you were surrounded by less people, maybe more people that are for you and less of the extra people that we don't necessarily need to have around us.
I love that. When you were starting on your journey, meditation really hard for you? Because I feel like when we're so used to ignoring ourselves, and then you kind of that's how I felt when I was with therapy or journaling. I'd be like, there's so much shit happening. I can't think about this. I'm so far gone. Just thinking about how much work I have to do. Put me in a panic mode. I don't want to even start. So what was that feeling for you? When you're starting meditation, you're like, okay, I have all these things I need to work on. Talk me through that.
It was really hard. Meditation was a struggle for me, to be honest with you. And some days I still struggle with it. It really depends on, what's going on and being aware of that. But when I would try to be very generous and kind to myself because that's the whole point of being self-aware is there's no judgment, right? And I had been a very self-critical person. You know, the voice in my head was not a kind one. And it was never a voice that I would share with anyone else. I would never talk to my enemy the way that I would talk to myself. And so, you know, really learning to silence that inner critic, especially when you're trying to sit down in front of a candle for a few minutes and just get quiet with yourself. And then that inner critic shows up and you know, I was making the grocery list or thinking about all the things I needed to get done that morning. And it absolutely was a struggle. But I think with anything, practice is what you need to do. And talking to yourself like you would talk to a friend, you know, just trying to give myself grace and permission to be a human and try to figure it out. And if I'm a little wobbly or if I stumble, it's okay. I'll just try again.
Yeah, that's amazing. What was growing up with your parents like? Was there a lot of pressure to be the best or get good grades? Was that your kind of your childhood?
My childhood was a little bit unique in the regard that my parents divorced when I was very young. And so, and my father, my birth father, had a lot of addictions. And so my mom and my stepfather, who are amazing humans, kept me on a very, very strict tightrope because they didn't want me to follow in my father's footsteps. So I grew up in a very strict household and I was kept on a very tight leash. And, you know, I was, whether it was my upbringing or how I was naturally born, I was a people pleaser, you know, very much focused on like always doing the right thing, never wanting to embarrass my parents, never wanting to, you know, do the wrong thing, make the wrong steps. Whether it was from them or from me, I always felt a lot of pressure. And probably a lot of that had to do with divorce at an early age. So, you know, I think I was pretty much born anxious and, you know, wanting to always be a rule follower. I mean, I'm hardwired to be a rule follower, which is tricky now because I don't always need to follow the rules. The rules aren't always meant to be followed and the rules don't always have my best interest in mind, you know? I mean, you know, I was in a period of career transition and I decided to start this business and to really focus on this wellness path because I believed in it so deeply in my soul. You know, my parents are very supportive and I appreciate that, but they would love for me to go back to what I had done. And that's not what's happening right now. And I'm okay with that. And I hope they're okay with that. But if they're not, this is my path to walk. And so that's really been an interesting piece for me because, you know, I'm 46 years old and I'm a mother of 2 middle schoolers. And, you know, I have a husband and together who's incredibly supportive. And, you know, I need to live my life for me because I spent so much time trying to do the right thing and do what everybody expected of me. And that led me to burnout and frustration. And now I don't want to waste another minute thinking like that.
That's wow. What kind of patterns did you learn from your parents? You saw them getting divorced at such a young age. Then how did that affect your relationship with your husband or like even when you were dating? Did you see kind of that you were chasing kind of like your parents' relationship? I feel like I see that. Like, you know, I see my parents' relationship and I see their dynamic. And sometimes I find myself in partnerships that are like my mom or like my dad. Did you feel that way when you were like dating or like with your relationship right now?
So when I was dating my now husband, you know, one of the things that really attracted me to him was his large family and his extended family members. And I think because my family was divorced and fragmented and there were complications on my dad's side, I didn't always tap into my larger family that I did have access to. It was hard because addiction makes things really complicated. So, you know, I loved the fact that he had cousins that he always spent time with. Family gatherings were a big to do. That's what I had always craved and wanted, especially being an only child for 16 years of my life. So that was very attractive to me.
Wow. Let's go back to your retreat and your wellness. So what made you want to start this retreat that you're having next month, right?
Yes. June 7th, Castle. I'm so excited.
Talk me through what made you want to decide to do this retreat. How did you create it? What was your process?
Yeah, so I have a whole background in marketing, communications, and events. Yeah. And I really just wanted to, one day when I was walking in nature, this idea popped into my head, my intuition, and told me that, you know, it would be great to create a wellness retreat for women. So I started thinking, okay, that's really interesting. I'd love to take all of the things that I've learned, which took me a lot of time and trouble, a lot of investment in, doing research and exploring what worked for me and what I wanted to learn more about. And so I wanted to create like a half-day experience originally and just make it something that would allow women to get away for a little bit of time for the day and really give them space to connect with themselves on a deeper level and start connecting to their soul if that was what they were into. And then as I was building it, it just got bigger and bigger. And now it's a full day retreat, which I'm very excited about. And the whole concept of it is to take what I've learned and the knowledge of some experts that I have joining me as well, and to share the content in a way that is digestible and snack sized. So it's not meant to overwhelm anyone. I'm by no means, I don't have everything figured out. I don't think anyone on the planet has everything figured out. So there will be people here that are more advanced in certain levels than I am, and some that are a little bit earlier on their journey and their path. But I really just want it to meet anyone where she is when she walks through the door, because the last thing I want to do is create a space that makes somebody feel like they shouldn't be here. It's really open to anyone that is a woman, that is 18 years or older, that is just looking for more, whether it's due to burnout or stress or the demands of life, or just looking to create a little space for themselves that day.
I love that. When you were in your job, corporate, when did you realize you were burned out? Because I feel like no one really talks about burnout. Because I feel like it's just like you just do it. You're just
part of
meant,
culture.
right? You're meant to be burnt out. What do you mean, like you're not burnt out? Like I talk to my friends, like, oh, we work all day. I'm like, oh, well, I think that's corporate. No one talks about it.
Nobody talks about it. Yeah, no, it was a slow burn.
Yeah.
And then it was just, pure fire.
Yeah.
But, it started with having a global role and, working global hours. So starting a presentation at 11:30 at night, then doing the next one at 5:30 the next morning because I was presenting to a different region, and, just keep going and going and going, and then doing my day job right in between because you have a salary and you're not compensated hourly. So I didn't really have a lot of time with the catch-ups. And although, COVID created some great efficiencies in the workplace, I think depending on your corporate culture or your business culture or your work ethic, that can be a lot on people. So I had the benefit of working from home a couple of days a week, which was absolutely a luxury and a privilege. But on those days, I had so many meetings, I wasn't actually nourishing my body or let alone like stepping away for a bio break. Yeah. So it was really challenging and taxing. And I would go all the days that I was working from home, not eating. And, I would get compliments in the office about how I had lost weight. And so it was this whole bizarre cycle that was just glorifying the unhealthy. And that's not to say that it was a requirement of the culture. It was just the team that I was on and very much expected. And, I don't think the top would certainly want to glorify that. And there's nothing to glorify there. That's a recipe for disaster for any woman. And, and that's just my day job, right? I also have 2 kids and a home and a dog and responsibilities that are outside of my job. So, it became very taxing and overwhelming for me to find time for myself, which is how I got to be in the state that I was. And that's really why I want to help other people with what I'm doing, because, so many people, not just women, but many of them are women, are just going through the motions and not having fulfilling experiences. And that's not how life is supposed to be. We're really supposed to find a bit more joy and clarity in the moment. And, I was very much, living in the past and focused on the future. And it's hard to stay afloat sometimes in the moment. And that's absolutely how I felt in that period of my life.
With starting a business, I feel like sometimes it feels like more is more and more is better because like when it comes, this is so much what I see online is like, just keep hustling, work,
grind.
You're just grind. And that goes back into like corporate culture where it's like, oh, like there's no 9 to 5 when you're working remote. It's like you work all day. Like you got a laptop, you're working. Because like with
you're
at least,
on.
yeah. So how do you feel that kind of coming back now that you own your own practice where it's like, I just need to do more. Like there's no cutoff time. There's no time to eat. I just have to grind. Now you have a retreat. I just have to grind it out because I need to make this the best retreat ever. Yeah. Do you feel kind of those old thought patterns coming back?
Sometimes I do. Absolutely. But I'm trying to use what I know and apply it to myself and be kind to myself. So, when I need to take a break, I force myself to go for a walk. And I was realizing a couple of weeks ago that I was really stressed out and starting to, feel that responsibility of making sure I'm selling tickets and making sure this experience is meaningful for everybody that does buy a ticket, and just wanting to deliver for all of my audiences, whether it's my vendors, my speakers, my attendees. And I recently started to chunk my time where I know that for a certain period of time, I'm focused on my business and amplifying it and doing all that needs to be done for it. Then another period of time, I'm focused on, the work that I need to get done because I have other responsibilities too. And I want to be present for my kids. I mean, that's the whole point of this as well, is to have that balance and not just have it be a sound, right? It has to be lived. And I'm very aware of the fact that I'm modeling what work looks like to 2 kids. Yeah. So especially when they're coming home from school, I don't want to be snapping at them because I have so many more things to accomplish. I want to be present for them. And I fully recognize that I will be their snack wench for a solid hour when they get home. And I want to enjoy it because, it's a fleeting period of time, in a couple of years. That won't be the case. My son will be off and my daughter will not be interested in me. I really want to cherish what I have and be present where I am.
Yeah, I love that. Has your parenting style shifted as you've did your own personal development? I see that with my parents. I feel like as they evolve, I'm like, oh, I see them evolving. I'm evolving. We're kind of evolving together. It's this weird thing. Have that happened with you and your kids as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. And in my relationship with my husband, the bottom line is when we heal ourselves, we help heal the people that are around us. So there was definitely, some very positive impacts from what I was instituting and also how that was, spreading throughout my home in a good way. And I love just sending my kids outside. Just go outside. Go take the dog for a walk. Go out in nature. It's very important.
Yeah. I mean, get off your phone.
I know. And I'm all about the IRL experiences, which they hate. It's so critical. I think the time that they're growing up in and the impact that COVID has had on them and socializing, they got access to screens a lot earlier because they needed to stay connected, right? Yeah. So now we're actively trying to bring back the human connection in real life. So if it's having your buddies over to watch the Knicks game, yes, invite them over. Let's do that instead of just all being siloed in our rooms at home, screaming at each other. Let's scream at each other in my basement.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way right now. I don't think we've even acknowledged the effects that COVID has had on all of our lives. Yeah. That we're kind of done with being on our screens or internet or texting people or Zoom or FaceTime. No, can you just come to my place?
Can we? Yeah, totally. And that's why, the retreat is so important to me too, because yes, it's about healing yourself and connecting with yourself and learning some things and experiencing some things maybe you haven't yet. But it's also about being with other people that are there for the same thing and creating community. You and I met at an event and we certainly, hit it off and connected deeply. And that can happen anywhere. You just have to take the time to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I love that it's women because I feel like we think so differently. I went to that women's networking event with the intention with this year being going to more women's because I feel like it's so much easier to connect because we're oh, this is what's happening in our lives. Or we're going through this. It's just, it feels more vulnerable. Yeah. And so easy. Because I felt like that space where we were talking about our life problems. I was like, wait, I don't even talk about these stuff with my friends. Yeah. For me to go to meet 20 strangers.
Yeah.
And just
go deep.
Yeah. Here you go. Here's what my life looks like. Yeah. And you're especially when it's business networking. I feel like sometimes with business networking, it feels let me just do a sales pitch. Let me just act like my business is perfect and I'm doing amazing.
Right, I have everything figured out.
Exactly, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, and then this, the women, so it's no, here's literally, this is actually what's happening.
Yeah, and it's important to have real conversations, right? Not just superficial, my name is Jess and I own this. Yeah. No, I want to connect with you on a deeper level because that's part of the human experience. Yeah. And COVID absolutely created that barrier for us, and we need to let it go and go back to the basics and get outside in nature and just enjoy life and enjoy each other.
Exactly. What type of community would you love to build for yourself? What do you think that women really need right now or struggling when you we're thinking about this retreat, what were kind of the pieces that were like, okay, I see the woman in my life, they need help with this, whether it be like depression, anxiety, burnout, like what are those pieces for you?
Well, all of those things are definitely happening. And also just like the floating through life thing. Yeah. You know, I think that, you know, there's this suffering that happens, this silent suffering that no one's really talking about. It starts with an inner dialogue, which again, no one's really openly discussing. And it just permeates throughout. And there are all of these expectations and, you know, requirements and responsibilities that fall to women in particular because we're natural caregivers, because we want to help, because we're empaths usually. And, you know, it's important to focus on yourself and give that same empathy and love and time to yourself as you would a friend or a loved one in struggle or distress.
Yeah, I love that. For someone who's like a recovering people user, which I am, how do we balance being like empathetic towards people, but also realizing what we need for ourselves? Because I struggle with that so much, where it's like, so funny. I'll like have a boundary with someone, and then a few days go by, I'm like, I feel so bad. How do I recover from this?
Well, I think the first step is not letting it continue in your head, right? You know, I mean, it's very easy to say, I'm going to have a boundary and I'm not going to talk to somebody, but you also have to stop continuing the dialogue because you're giving it life still, which is something that I am actively also working on. And I think it's just human nature and a human trait, right? So because we care and we're loving individuals, but we're not doormats and you're not going to walk all over us. So those boundaries are mission critical. And I think, you know, just it's okay to not be loving to people that aren't reciprocating that to you. You know, you get what you give. And if people aren't, you know, supporting you or aren't showing up for you or don't understand what you're doing and are creating distance, you know, as you said before, maybe there's a reason that's happening. Like maybe this has served its purpose and, you know, there's really not much left. But you know, I think every relationship really offers a gift and, you know, not all relationships are supposed to be carried to, you know, continuum. The longest relationship that you have is with yourself. And, you know, when I started realizing that and framing my life in that way and pouring into it, beautiful things started to happen.
I love that. It's like really acknowledging what we have to serve for what we have for ourselves and what we have for other people. Like I think when I realized like I have a lot to give, but that's amazing and beautiful, but I don't need to give it to everybody.
Right. Because some people are just energy vampires, right? And they just want to take all of your goodness and use it for evil. And that is not okay.
Yeah.
That is not okay.
Especially when I find myself doing this where it's like, if I feel like, if I give so much and then I feel resentment afterwards, I'm like, I'm burnt out. Like I just did whatever like level of love I have for other people, it just depleted. And now I'm like angry.
And that's when I know my boundaries have not been instituted in the right way. And I need to, you know, take a step back and reassess the circumstances. You know, I have 2 kids that aren't able to drive yet. So I am the Uber chauffeur. I have a 5-star rating, I like to say. But, you know, the bottom line is I'm not spending my weekend in the car going from X to Y to Z because you've been invited to all of these things. And I found myself overextending myself far too often. And then I'm like, why am I so pissed off? And I'm upset because I didn't hold firm. I'm doing things I don't want to be doing and I can't get this time back. And my time is precious. Of course. And, you know, if it's not appreciated on top of it, which, you know, teenagers aren't exactly known for, then forget it, you know? So having those conversations, having those feelings has forced me to have those conversations with my kids. And it's also helped them to evaluate how they want to spend their time. You know, my daughter gets invited to everything and we can't go to everything because our wheels fall off and we lose our minds and we're exhausted. And so she's learned how to say no, thank you. And no is a complete sentence. And, you know, if I can help her learn that in an early age, she'll be farther ahead than I was. For sure.
Yeah. How do you balance having 2 kids, business, getting like invited to all these events? They're getting invited to all these like sports teams, their parties, like, you know, dating with your husband, like going on dates with your husband. How do you do it all?
Don't do it all well sometimes. So it's about segmenting the time also and making sure that you take the time for each of those things. You know, my husband and I have been together for a really long time. So it's important that we spend some time together, not with the kids too. But he runs his business, I'm running my business. So it's a little impossible right now, but you take your moments, right? So for the kids, you know, I definitely lean on my extended network where, there's coaches and friends that offer to help out and drive because of competing schedules, and you can't divide yourself into multiple humans, unfortunately. Yeah, right? Yeah. Maybe in 20 years, 15 years. So really, it's just leaning on the support that you have, and also having the grace to recognize that you can't do everything well all at once. Sometimes we need to say no. If we were out all day Saturday, running from X to Y to Z, on Sunday it's a chill day, it's a home day, and it's a family day. Sorry.
I mean, I love that. Like, I feel like you have check-ins with yourself and your like family. Like, okay, we've done too much. Let's just chill out. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes families don't acknowledge that we're supposed to be go, go, go. Or like if we are, sometimes I feel like with my family, it's like if we are go, go, that means like the world will think we're doing great. Yeah. Like we're showing up to all the parties. That means the family's together. We're like so happy. Yeah. And sometimes it's like, are we just doing this because we want to show face just because to make it seem like our family is perfect? Or are we doing it because we actually want to go to this freaking party? Right. And most of the times we don't want to go to the party.
Oh. You have to, right? Or there's all these obligations. Yes. Yeah. So I think, the really important thing is just making sure you're doing what you want to do and you're being where you need to be, right? Because there's wants and needs. And it's really important to be authentic and have that balance. But I've also learned that sometimes when I go, because I'm an empath and because, I'm attuned to my energy and I can absorb other people's energy, I need resets. Like I have girlfriends that can go and fill up their weekends and they're fine. That's not me. Yeah. And I need, a couple of minutes to myself just to read, it's like plugging in your phone and getting that battery level back up because I'm depleted. And so being okay with that and recognizing it and being okay with it when you're attuned to yourself and you have a deeper understanding and relationship with yourself, you may start to recognize those things and you should listen to your body.
Yeah, I love that. I'm the same way. I feel like when I go, then it's like one day I'm like, I'm burnt out. I sleep all day. I'm like, I'm done. I can't talk anymore. I have nothing left to say.
Occupational hazard as a podcaster.
I know. Look what I brought myself into. I know. It's so funny because it's something that I admire people who are like that. Like,
me too.
Right? The people who go to every event and they love it. And then the next day they're like, oh my God, do you want to get breakfast? And I'm like, I am sleeping. Like, I literally won't wake up tomorrow. I'm done. Yeah. But I just admire it so much. And sometimes like, it's not really me.
Right. But that's it. Like you have to be you.
Yeah.
There are some people that, just don't want to be social at all. Yeah. And, my husband would rather place an order online than pick up the phone and call somebody. And I'm happy to I want to talk to the people, So you have to be kind to yourself with where you are and be honest with yourself on what lights you up and what dims your light.
Yeah, I love that. We're going to go back to the questions. What is one thing you wish more women knew about their power to heal, grow, and lead, especially with the supportive community?
Yeah, so I think women need to recognize that there are so many resources readily available. You don't have to run to this doctor or, this, self-help, whatever. Nature is a natural reset. Listening to good music can really boost your mood, right? Taking time for yourself and just whether it's waking up early before the house gets noisy or, just having a little self-care with a face mask, watching a Netflix show, whatever that is for you, take the time to do it because when your wheels fall off, nothing good can happen to you or those around you. And if you're always taking care of others, just make sure you're also taking time for yourself.
Yeah. Do you have resources or like your favorite podcast people that you listen to when you're having a bad day to kind of bring you back up?
Yeah. So I really love Mel Robbins. She's obviously phenomenal and the whole let them theory, like we resonate with that, right? Because you can't control what other people do. All you can control is how you respond to them. So absolutely. She's fabulous. I also, it's a little out there, but I love Hacking the Afterlife, which is a podcast with Richard Martini and Jennifer Schaefer. And it has to do with talking to the other side. So it's really, really interesting. And I've actually learned so much through that podcast because, I don't want to butcher it, but they essentially, Jennifer Schaefer is a medium who is able to connect to the other side. She's like a cell phone to the other side. And there's just so much wisdom that I've learned in hearing the conversations of, things like drink the wine, don't wait for the perfect moment or the special occasion, like wear the shoes, wear the dress, live your life, live the experiences. Don't just put everything behind a plastic box. for that magical day because it may never come. You have to create your moments now.
Yeah. Wait, I love that. That's amazing. I'll definitely check it out. Do you have other people that you look up to that's not like podcasters, maybe like who got you started in this? Like you.
Oh, yeah. My shaman.
Your shaman. Yes.
She's incredible, Dr. Lorraine Broder, and she's actually going to be one of the speakers at
wow.
wellness retreat. So she's phenomenal. And, you know, honestly, I have to say, since I've decided to walk this path and really focus on wellness and just being in tune with myself and all that is around me, incredible people have come my way and, you know, just joined my life. You know, I met somebody not too long ago that's lived in my neighborhood forever. And we met through our dogs. And she's also one of the speakers at my event because it turns out, you know, she is somebody that went to Columbia to get her master's in spirituality at 50.
That's incredible.
I just found out through talking to her while she was walking her dog
That's
one day.
incredible.
So, you know, the universe really brings people into your life that are meant to, you know, help you walk alongside you on your journey so that you can learn from them, that you can share experiences with them, that you can help them and they can help you. And, you know, that has absolutely been the gift of living this chapter of my life. Right now.
I love that. Sometimes I feel like I could see my own growth with who I spend my time with.
Yeah.
Because I think like for so long I was spending my time with people who were like, you know, what you said, vampire, energy vampires. I'm like, why do I feel so upset all the time or depressed? And then it kind of shifted where I'm like, when I do spend time with people, I'm like, oh, I feel lit up. I actually want to talk.
Yeah.
I always thought I was like really introverted back then. Like, I just hung out with people I didn't like.
Aren't for you.
Exactly. It's so shocking. I feel like that's when you see your own growth.
Yeah.
When you're like, wow, like just the people are loving and they're supportive. I don't have to feel like I'm in an argument every single time I see someone. Or I feel like every thing I say is like, turns into be like, did you really mean that?
Absolutely.
Right?
And then, you know, I think also the beautiful thing about when you're in flow and the people that you attract is that I found women to be very supportive. You know, after my last few experiences, when I was trying to figure out what was next, I was like, you know what? I am never working for a woman again because I've just had really negative experiences and I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I just need to work for a man. But since I've become an entrepreneur and started, you know, this business, that's not true at all. It's nothing but women trying to help me and trying to support me in this industry and on this journey but we're not in competition. And it's so beautiful, you know, like you've invited me on your podcast, which is so special. And I'd love to have you come and be a part of my online community when I get that up and running because, you know, it's just beautiful to witness the growth that's happening in others and to help that light, foster that light, right? And that beauty to continue. It's not, you know, it's not as it once was, as I thought things were. And I'm so grateful to have learned that and to see that when we're not in competition with each other, women can be incredibly supportive and, you know, for you. Absolutely.
I love that because when I did work, my whole team was girls except one boy. And I always felt like, oh my God, women hate each other. Like I did not like the culture at all because of it. And the guy was actually the most supportive of everyone because he was like, I don't care about all this drama. Like everyone shut up. He did not care. He clocked in, he clocked out. He was like, I'm out. But we all were like catty and it was like, and that's why I left because I was like, I do not like this. And it gave me such a bad vibe about like women in like corporate world because I'm like, they're really mean. And then I love that. And then I feel like in entrepreneurship, we're all like rooting for each other. Like when it comes to like events or like comes to like social media or whatever, we're like, no, you got this. Like we get it. Especially because I feel like we understand that people love to hate on women for everything we do. We have so much that we have to work against. Like the way we look, we have to look a certain way. The way we present ourselves, we have to be assertive, but not too assertive. Like there's just too much going on. And we all just understand that everything we're working through is a lot.
And I also think there's a level of honesty, right? Like authenticity that exists that doesn't exist everywhere. And so I really value that because it's important to recognize the beauty where it exists everywhere that you see it. And, you know, that is not something that's omnipresent for sure.
No, 100%, 100%. If someone wants to start building a community focused on well-being, where do you think they should start?
I think they should start within. The most important thing is to make sure that whatever it is that you're offering is true to yourself, your values, and something that can stand on its own without you. So to me, that is a critical first step whenever you're building something, to make sure that it is genuine, and that you're doing something that means something to you. Because if your heart isn't in it, we know this, it's not going to be successful. And why would you want to waste your time on that? Time is too precious.
Yeah. It's so funny you said that, because I could see, just like meeting people, if their business could be successful. You could just tell, because it's just genuine and they actually care about it. It's not about how much you post on social media. It's not about like, oh, an ad. It's just like you genuinely care. Yeah. And that just like will make you, it's not even about the money, just will make you so happy in what you do. Yeah. And people could tell.
And that's also what I love about what I'm doing now is it's not for everyone. Yeah. And it's not meant to be for everyone. I'm not looking to fill a room. I'm curating something that is intentionally small, because the people that it's for are called to it, and the people that aren't won't come. Yeah. And that is perfectly fine with me, because I'm looking for a certain audience member. And, I don't feel like I need to take out ads for that or to chase them to come, right? They'll feel it. They'll want to be there. Their soul will bring them.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful, because I feel like when I've been to networking events where I feel like, this has been on every platform. There's people who shouldn't be, like, the energy is not there where it's like positive energy. And then you kind of go to there like, oh, but like the people kind of suck. But like when you're doing it your way, you're like, the people who are meant to be there are meant to be there. And like when I go there, when I'm there, I'm like, oh, I love the people who are here. Yeah. Right? That means a lot to me. When I'm with a room of people who are like, they get Jess's message and they resonate with her. Yeah. Not that, oh, they just have the money to spend, or like they just happen to have a free Saturday to go to this, Absolutely. It shows. And I feel like the people in the room matter so much as the event is. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like sometimes like I'll go to events, I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks. We've all been in that.
Or you've been to an event and like a networking event and there's big energy in the room, but what came of your conversations after? It's one thing to have additional people that you're connected with on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform or Instagram or whatever. Yeah. But did anything come of it? So I'm so grateful for the lasting and meaningful relationships that come out of networking events like ours.
Yes, 100%. Like, do I want to grab a coffee with, like, we grabbed coffee after. I was like, okay, yes, I love that. Yeah. Because it's like that, it meant something to me. Like, it was a beautiful connection, and I felt that with you. And you don't always get that. Like,
no, it's very rare.
Yes. Like, we could tell when people are just filling the room out, and that's fine. But it's like, when you feel it, it's like, oh, this is great. Yeah. And it leads to this. Yeah. It leads to conversations like this. It leads to retreats, of supporting each other, going further. Like, I cannot wait for what this builds in a year. Yeah. Like, that's incredible. That's so cool. It was so funny. I was like, I want to go. I mean, for me, it's like, I just do things out of the way. Like, I feel like that's why we resonate so much, because we're so in tune with ourselves. Like, if something does not feel right, I just don't do it at all. I'm like, okay, I want to do the fitness, like, cooking channel. I was like, it doesn't feel right. And then the podcast just came into my lap. And I was like, wait, I like this more. Yeah. And it's just like going with the flow, because I truly do not believe for myself, like, I need to be doing anything. I do what I feel called for, and that's all I'm going to do. Whether this lasts, I think this is going to last, the podcast is going to last a long time for me, but like, if it lasts me 2 months, it's 2 months, and I learn from it, and I do something else. Yep. It's kind of that journey for me.
Absolutely. Because you're learning and growing.
Yes.
And that's what it's about.
Right? Like, we already did the corporate, where we were supposed to, like, climb a ladder for everyone to
get
be
that corner up.
We all did that, get the higher salary, and then I think we all left because we were like, I don't think that's for us. No. Like, I'm done. Yeah. I'm done trying to please everyone. Do the right thing. It's over. Yeah.
And look, there's life after corporate.
Yes.
Look at us.
Yes. When I quit my job, I had this whole, like, what's called ego death. Did you feel this way?
I did. I've actually had 2 ego deaths in my life. The first one was when I decided to stay at home with my son after I first had him. And that was a really big struggle for me, because at that time, so much of my life was defined by my work. Yeah. And so much of my self-worth was defined by my work and the value that I brought to my previous role. And so I approached motherhood the same way I would approach a business, where I needed to network. So I built up my mom network and met lots of other moms and went to the places that, women with new children go to, the library and coffee shops and mommy and me's, and just really tried to build my mommy empire and network. And that was great. That really helped me. And I definitely had an ego death this second time around where I was in this period of transition when I left corporate. And it didn't feel as painful as that first one because, you know, that first one, there were a lot of hormones happening or leaky boobs, you know, another human being to be fully responsible for that I had to like feed until they were 18, which was very overwhelming at the time. But during this last transition and pivot, I really felt because I was connected to what I was called to do. And because what I'm doing right now, I feel like is the reason I'm on this planet, you know, it was a little less scary. And I had already kind of killed my ego in the process of my spiritual awakening that I had after visiting the shaman. So, you know, I was in the process of reinventing myself and rebuilding myself. So when change happened, I was ready for it. I mean, it was still emotional and there were still tears, but because change can be very hard and it's, you know, significant. And, you know, when you go out on your own and you start something new and you have a family and, you know, other mortgage and responsibilities, you know, it can feel like you're jumping out of the plane without a parachute. But I believe in what I'm doing. And I know that, you know, my soul is awake and excited for all the great things that are coming.
Yeah. On the days that you feel like you don't feel supported, what do you do? The days that you're like, oh, I don't feel like this is working.
Yeah, I try to really give myself what I need and whatever that is. So self-care and prioritizing my self-care, you know, emails can wait.
Yeah.
The posts can wait.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that I had on the list, you know, it can hold off for a bit. You know, the other day I was really struggling and it was an emotional day. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a salt bath and I'm going to, you know, do a meditation in the salt bath because that's like incredible to me. And I've been working so hard and going and, you know, there's no 9 to 5 anymore. So I gave myself that time and it really was so enjoyable. And, you know, just sitting in bed sometimes, just watching a show or listening to something or reading something that I just want to indulge in, that feels really special when I need it. So just not being so rigid with myself, which I really used to do. That's something I've actively and still continue to work on.
I mean, I feel like the rigid life is so praised. You know, the whole time blocking or time management. I get into that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my life together, which means like I need to like structure it out. That lasts a day. And I'm like, that was the dumbest thing ever. It took me long to plan that than actually doing it. Like, no, I'm not doing that. But it's like so like it's everywhere. And I feel like sometimes I get to the place of like, why can I not be like that? Why can't I just like, you know, be so like, this is my schedule. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to be like that. I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes the flexibility also kind of feel like, oh, like I do something and then I do something else. It feels like it's not organized in my head. And it could feel sometimes it's like, I'm not doing it right. Do you feel that way in your,
Totally. I think that's human nature, right? But that's when I really try to get outside of my head and literally get outside, which I know, you know, can be a privilege because we're home and, you know, we have a little bit more of a fluid lifestyle and schedule these days, but I take advantage of it. You know, every morning I go outside and I put my feet in the grass and I ground because, you know, it just helps me start my day on the right foot and really also reminds me that there's a whole ecosystem happening outside of my home all of the time. And we're a very small part of a very large world and universe. Grounding really helps to give you perspective. So I try not to think that everything that I'm going through is the most critical thing. And of course, there are major things that happen to each of us. They're, you know, not to be glossed over. You have to feel your feelings. You have to go through the motions, but it's also totally acceptable and required to give yourself some grace.
I love that. It's like not the whole world. Sometimes I feel like the world revolves around me. Like everyone's thinking about me. I'm like, no one's thinking about me.
No one's thinking about me. I know.
No one's thinking about me. No one's thinking about what I said. No one's thinking about what I did. Like I'm not thinking about what other people are doing or what they said to me.
That's exactly it. And it serves as a good reminder, right? Like, okay, I can just take it down a notch. I'm not during cancer right here.
Yeah.
This is not a life or death situation. It's really important to have perspective.
Yeah. Especially when you're doing an event, like it's like heavy. Like I feel like you're in it. Like I feel like events are such big planning. Like you're also a one woman show. Like you're doing everything, getting all these speakers together and wanting it to be the best. And then kind of like also prioritizing your own well-being with having kids. It's like a lot's happening right now.
But I'm so grateful for it. You know, I mean, you know, you have to have hard conversations sometimes, but I'm using every moment that I have, honestly, to show my son. I'm like, okay, look at this. Let's look at, how I'm approaching my marketing with this business, and look how I did this event. And did you see that I have collaborators on this?
Wow.
And look at the views versus,
so cool.
subscribers versus none. So it's all these little marketing moments. He might be my summer intern. I'm not
Love
sure yet.
it. That's so cool.
Yeah. So there's opportunities for us to learn and share our wisdom with everybody that's around us if we just create those moments and take the time to do it. So that's been a fun byproduct.
That's so fun. With entrepreneurship, or like even when I start podcasts, I feel like some of my limited beliefs, or like I get so triggered sometimes. Do you feel that way with hosting the event? Like, have you had these limited beliefs like, oh, I can't do this, or like something's coming up for you that feels very heavy?
There have definitely been roadblocks and challenges along the way. My vendor agreement took a little bit longer than I would have liked due to things that were happening over there. But I did my best to make sure I wasn't doing what I used to do, which is filling in that silence with a narrative that was of my own creation. They're not getting back to me because of X, Y, and Z. They don't want me there. This isn't meant to be. What am I doing? All of that nonsense. It's been, I feel so alive doing this, because you have to live outside of your comfort zone. Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. But it's had its challenging moments where, a vendor's asking me a question, and, we had agreed on something, and now they want to change the terms. And it's been a lot. But at the same time, I also recognize if you don't want to be there, then this isn't for you. And that's perfectly fine. Yeah. So I've just taken the whole field of dreams mindset that if you build it, they will come. And I've applied it to every angle when it was my venue, when my ticket sales launched, when, I was bringing in vendors and speakers. And, what lights me up is the fact that my shaman's really excited about this. And she's done a ton of events,
Yeah.
Everybody's just really into it because it's unique in the way that I'm handling it and I'm approaching it. And so I'm just grateful for the support that the universe has given me.
Yeah. That's so cool that you've been in touch with the shaman. When did you do?
So I met with her February of 2024 originally.
Oh, wow.
So we've kept in touch, and, I've had life happen time and time again, and it's the wisdom that I learned from her and that formative experience that I had with her that really equipped me to handle and navigate some tricky situations.
Yeah. So do you stay in touch like weekly, or like?
She's part of my program, so we speak a little bit more frequently now. Before I was on this path and before I was doing what I'm doing now, I would just send her an email every so often, and she was very kind to receive it and, would put some love back in email to me too. So it's all about the connection that we have in this life with people. Like we talked about earlier, if somebody lights you up and sees you for who you are and you see them, like, that's really special. And that's not to be discounted, because it's not, it's very much, it's not it was the exception to the rule in my previous life. But now, because I'm really trying to have authentic relationships and realness, it seems to be more prevalent, which is a beautiful thing. So you have to recognize the beauty in what you have and what surrounds you.
Yeah. It's also not being attached to anything. I feel like that's what the type of life that you're living right now. It's like, people are going to come if they want to come. Like, I'm not attached to the outcome for this event. I'm not attached to anything. I'm just going to let be. And those are the most beautiful things that happen. Yes. I feel like when I force it, I'm like, no, I'm going to work really hard on this. I'm going to make sure it happens. Nothing is happening.
I surrender. Surrendering has been the biggest thing for me, you know, and there are challenging moments in life. My mortgage payment is due soon, you know, and it's just surrender and trust. And, I have been carried to this point. I'm here doing this for a reason, and I'm really excited to see how it resonates with others and what it grows into.
Yeah. What type of conversations do you have with your husband about this? Like, say the market is coming up, panic mode. Yeah. How do you guys both kind of just be like, it's going to work out?
Well, we are the yin and yang to each other. So he's the finance guy and I'm the dreamer who tries to get her feet on the ground, and together we are one.
I love that.
So we make it work. There's lots of hustling happening, and there's a lot of prioritization of what needs to be done and what can wait until things are a little different. So there's a lot of home cooked meals. There's a lot of, sorry, we're not doing Starbucks. conversations, you know, because you prioritize what matters.
It's a beautiful duo. I think you both there needs to be that. The person who's like, you know, like has to get done. The person who's like, but you help him dream bigger too, right? There needs to be that mix. It's like, no, you can do whatever you want to do because just dream as big as you want. And the finances will come with that. Yeah. I feel like sometimes with dreamers, which I'm a dreamer too, like the logical people kind of shut me down. Like, wait, no, this will work out. I don't need your logic. This will all work out.
Just watch.
Exactly. Just watch. I don't need you to calculate how much money this is going to make me. It'll all work out. It's something you need that balance.
You do.
Right.
I mean, we can't have two dreamers.
Exactly.
Like, how are the bills getting paid? I don't know.
But then you can't have two like logical people because then no one's really dreaming that big. They're just like set to one standard.
Are they even living?
Exactly.
Are they having fun?
Yeah. And you have kids, so it's like you have to like dream and you have to have fun. You have to like have playful conversations with them. Like your son being your marketing manager. Like I wish I was my parents' marketing manager. It would have been so fun.
He just got Instagram, so I was like, you know, you have to follow, right? Like and support.
That's so funny. Wait, middle school? I got Instagram. What age are kids getting?
So he just turned 14.
Okay. So, that's so funny. Now it's good. Now it's going to go downhill for with social media. All downhill. It's better when they didn't have it.
Yes. Tell me about it. I'm aware.
My goodness. Okay. Have you noticed a shift in how women seek support these days?
Yes. I think people like you and I talking about flipping the script, changing the narrative, doing something different, and talking about our own struggles helps others. It's really important. You know, I think that's what resonates and that's what matters. And that's what allows people to trust us because, you know, I'm not going to go to somebody who lives a perfect life and talk about my worries and struggles with them. It's really hard. And I'm also not that person that has all the perfect squares up in my life. I mean, I think that's been the challenge, not the challenge, but like that's been the intentional pivot that I've had to make with running my business is that I like to use social media not to talk about myself. You know, I've used it for other things like advocacy in my community, but I don't really put a spotlight on myself. I had stepped away from it for a while. So my followers and my supporters are not massive. And again, if it's for you, it's for you and you'll find it and you'll be supportive of it. And I'm definitely seeing that happen. But stepping outside of your comfort zone isn't always fun. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's a necessary element when you're running your own business.
No, 100%. The whole thing is uncomfortable. Yeah. We're not taught how to do this. No. I feel like at least corporate, we're kind of taught like...
Yeah, no, it's very clear what the expectations are and aren't. What's acceptable and what isn't, right? But, you know, you just have to shoot from your hip, see what sticks, right? And just keep going, keep chugging along. I think the more that women hear other women talk about real circumstances and real experiences, the more it opens up the door for a conversation like that.
100%.
And I think, like, as you know, my daughter's going to be 12 years old in a couple of weeks. And I think about how social media has impacted her, right? Because she watches reels on YouTube and, you know, has different ways of getting information than I did when I was growing up. And that all has an impact. Like, she has a beauty routine. Disturbing and fascinating at the same time. And so, you know, and it's all, like, healthy, normal stuff. Not some other kids have really extreme, complicated beauty routines. Hers are all natural, thankfully. But, you know, I just think it's really sending a positive message to her that, like, we can cry and we can be sad and we can be frustrated and we can not let that define us. Like, we can just take these moments and sit with them and feel them and deal with them and walk through them and survive them. And they don't have to define us.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like I wasn't learned that when I was growing up. It was
Neither was I.
Right? We're not learned. It's like, why are you crying? Stop crying.
Right. Like, why are you talking about your feelings?
Yeah.
You know, or don't talk about anything.
Yeah.
Because nothing's happening. What are you talking about? Why
exactly. And it's like, I find myself even trying to like unlearn these patterns because I remember when I was growing up, I was the one wearing makeup at not young, 13, 14.
She's not wearing makeup yet.
Oh my God, skincare routine. I wish I had it at that young age. Oh my God. I just put makeup on. But it was so funny because I'd cry. My dad would be like, don't cry, you're gonna mess up your makeup. So then I'm like self-conscious. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm crying and I look ugly. Like, it's this whole thing for myself. So like whenever I'm crying, I always think about like, oh my God, how ugly do I look? Yeah. But it's like I have to unlearn these. Like, it's fine.
Those little that you have that like get stuck in your brain and then shape you and propel you moving forward. So I've definitely normalized, you know, it's okay to cry. They've seen mom cry. They've seen mom be frustrated and they've seen mom pick herself back up and reinvent herself and try again. And so, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful lesson for them. Like, sometimes I feel like my parents are always trying to be perfect. And then I know now, like, they're absolutely not perfect at all. But why couldn't we just acknowledge that when I was younger and be like, okay, we're all just figuring this life out?
Nobody has the magic wand or, has it all the answers to the test.
Yeah.
Nobody. And that's what I tell my kids too, because it's really easy, especially when you're younger, to think that like everybody's so much more put together than you. But guess what? Like nobody has all the answers. Yeah.
Because it's like, then that's comparison. Like, oh my God, it's like, oh, compare me with my friends. Or where I'm like, okay, well, I'm just trying to live today.
I'm trying to survive.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look as good as possible for the life for my school. Like, I'm not trying.
Hello.
Yeah. So.
I don't want to leave that in.
Okay. So. Oh, we're doing good on time. I was like, is that my friend? I was like, did he just go? Anyways.
We have to do outtakes.
It's hilarious. Okay. So, back to this. What is kind of your big advice that you would give someone who is burnt out, where you were in your past life, right? Burnt out, struggling in their corporate job, and they can see the light, but just don't know how to get there. Like, now that you have all this information for yourself, what would be your advice for them?
Yeah, just it's going to be okay. Yeah. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything always works out eventually, right? Like, you have to walk through the muddiness, the muck, the murkiness of it all. Yeah. But, nothing is forever. Life has a lot of temporary moments and challenges, and, just stick with it and make time for yourself and be kind to yourself.
Yeah, it's so important to be kind. Sometimes I listen to myself when I'm thinking, and I'm like, who talks to themselves like that?
Right. A lot of people do, but nobody talks about that.
Yeah, because it just gets uglier and uglier over time.
Vicious.
Until you actually like stop. Like, now I have to learn to stop myself. I'm like, wait a second, this is not serving me at all. Yeah. This is even a productive thought. This is gonna like not do anything for me. I'm not gonna be productive from these thoughts. I'm not gonna have more friends from these thoughts. I'm not gonna be happier. Sometimes you just gotta be like, you know what, you need to shut up.
Yeah.
You just gotta.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it kind of just like, you just get into that. Like, sometimes
it snowballs.
Yes. Like, I'll have weeks. I'm like, oh my God, I need to stop thinking about this one thing until I'm like, I let it go. I'm done. I let it go. I'm just
Surrender that shit.
Right. And I'm learning how to do that because I think I've always learned to like fix the problem. Like, I feel like anxiety is like, sometimes when I'm so anxious, like, I need to fix it. I need to have that conversation. Yeah. And that conversation is not a great conversation when you're upset.
And it doesn't lead to fixing anything. Sometimes they phrase it a bit more.
Exactly. Then it's me apologizing for something that I didn't even do. I'm like, because I said the wrong thing. I'm like, oh my God, figure it out. Yeah. It's like, it just like remnants into this like big thing. And like, when you surrender, I love that because I've been practicing that so much, surrendering, detaching. Yep. Because I see such beautiful things coming from that when I just let it go.
And that's where the magic happens. Yeah. Right? It's so important to just be and to be okay in the uncomfort, to just, sit, not have all the answers and survive that moment. Yeah. Because you will. It'll be replaced by something else. Don't worry.
Yeah, I love that. What a beautiful moment to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's such amazing. This was so great. I know we really could talk for hours. This is amazing.
So fun. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited for your retreat.
Thank you.
I will be there. Absolutely.
I'm so
excited. It's going to be such a great day. For everyone listening, when will it be? How can they get connected with you?
Yeah, so it will be June 7th at Reed Castle, which is in Purchase over at Manhattanville University. And if you're interested in getting tickets, you can go to you can go to www.thealignedwellnesscollective.com and there are tickets for sale right there.
Yay, amazing. Get your tickets. This was so great. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I did too. Okay, that's this week's episode for the Unchill Podcast. Catch you next week. Thank you.
Sorry, I blinked on my website.
No. Totally fine.